Okay, as we start this charcoal drawing, I'm going to be doing this cat, and if we were in the classroom, I would probably be setting up a live still life for you to be drawing, but since we're at home, there is this image and it's online for you to download. So this cat, I'm going to start by getting my negative spaces for this cat. And as with everything else, we've got to start with the large areas, and we've got to start with a few measurements. So I'm going to take some measurements, and I'm just doing it with my finger here. I could do it with a pencil. I want to see how wide this cat is. And if I measure, it's less or more than half, excuse me, the body of this cat. If I go down here by the legs, yep, it's still a little bit more than half. So I'm going to take my charcoal drawing on here. You can see I'm not going to use the same measurements because I need to scale it up. This needs to be larger than this. You can see that would be small on here, so I'm not going to do the exact size. I'm going to do it a little bit larger. If you really struggle, you can do it the exact size. I'm going to show you how to make it larger just so that you have that experience. Now, if I measure from here, nope, if I use my entire pencil, that is about what that measurement of that cat is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my kneaded eraser, and if it gets dirty, I can just knead it and play with it a little bit, kind of clean it up. And I'm going to make a mark. I want my cat to sit about here. So we're going to draw today with our erasers. All right. Now, I'm going to, I think I want the bottom of my cat to start about here. So let's take one thing. One thing I can note is that this much of my pencil on this equals this much of my pencil here. That same thing is going to go one way or another. My basic unit on this cat is going to be this body. The width when the legs start and the height at the body. That's at the neck here. That's what I'm going to use for my basic unit. So I'm going to transfer that basic unit to here. Basic unit, reference to reference, and basic unit, drawing to drawing. So now on this one, the height is really the height of this pencil. And if I compare that to this, we know that it is about a third, again, as high as this. I know that seems a little bit weird, but what I'm trying to say is this is too short. The height of my pencil can't be that high. So if I take about a third of this pencil and add it here, that's going to be about my height. All right? So that is my basic unit on my paper, and that's giving me a place to start. Now from here, what I'm going to do is just kind of mark out my outline. I can start and stop at different places. I don't have to do the entire thing. Notice that on this cat, the forepaws are higher on the page than the rear paws. So when I draw that here, even though it's kind of blocky, I'm going to make sure that I make that higher. You can see I'm really pretty blocky compared to what is on the drawing. Now on this cat, if I put a pencil on here, it doesn't go from his legs straight up to his neck. It juts out at his chest. So I am going to do the same thing. I'm going to jut out at his chest and then come back here. Now his neck comes up, and I can even do, just like we did in class, I can take an angle and bring it over here and use that same angle. Part of his head kind of comes back a little bit. You can see it comes back, and then the ears jut up. Now, if I make a mistake and I go in too far, no big deal. I can either use my finger or I can use my smudgy and just kind of soften that up. If I'm doing this just as big angles. Okay, now I look at that and I look at this and I say, dang, that head is way too small for that body, so I need to keep reworking that. I'm going to keep coming down a little bit. I'm also going to get rid of some of this out here, simply because it's kind of playing with my vision. And when you're working with an outline here and a shape here, it can feel a little bit wonky. Okay, I need my back to come down a little bit and my head to come down a little bit. Now, right now I've kind of got a halo of white around it, but when I'm done, I need to get rid of that because I don't want an outline. Okay, that's feeling a little bit better. Now what I'm going to do is I can subtract with my eraser, I can add with my charcoal. So I'm just going to go in and add a little bit with my charcoal. If you'll notice online, I put a little tutorial about how to deal with photographs, and I even gave you some images that I adjusted so I could see shadows better. Now you can tell I still have a lot to do on the face. I'm not worried about that. We'll get it figured out. I'm just trying to get lights, mediums, and darks and see if it looks, in general, kind of like what I want it to be. Now, these paws are white. That's okay, I'll put that white in later. I'm just trying to get the general outline. Okay, oh, and I don't want to forget that fluffy tail that comes up here. You notice I'm kind of going in the direction of the way the hair grows. Okay. Let's do a little bit more on this head. He's got his eyes closed in the sun. I can rub with this or I can just blot with it. Either way. I think I'm going to do some background here. I'm going to smudge that back in. I want that to be just a little bit darker. Right there, I'm kind of blurring the line between the object and the background. And that's because right here, I want this part of the cat, this white, to show up. So I can still kind of see it there. But I am going to, I think I'm going to take my sticky eraser and draw with that for a minute. You can see I can get some nice The disadvantage is you get these little eraser crumbs. With your kneaded eraser, you won't get those little eraser crumbs. Now I can go down here and put those little paws in. Keep looking, don't just blindly put them in, but look at the actual shape that you see and try to mimic that as much as possible. It's much easier than having to go back and put it in if you can kind of start at the very beginning. I don't like that white line I put at the top, but that's okay. You'll notice even on the white, just because his paw is white all the way back here doesn't mean it's all the same value. Some of it is white, some of it is just very light, because the white has shadow as well. So I'll watch that as I go along, and I don't need to erase as much. That area. Before I smudge, I'm going to get rid of all these eraser crumbs. I do have a brush for brushing off eraser crumbs, but I use it on my pencil drawings, and I don't want to get charcoal on it, so I just smudge some of that off. All right, that is the basics. We still have a lot more to go. This is like step one. I still have a lot that I'm going to be doing to get full value in here. I don't just want white, medium, and dark. I want a lot of steps in between. So I'm going to keep working on this, and I'll show you a time-lapse film so you can see what happens.